Jacob talks.
What say I then? That the idol is anything? Or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
A bizarre request from Young Thug's defense amidst the rapper's ongoing jury selection, petitioning the court to exclude evidence of a ritualistic sacrifice in his RICO trial.
The theory behind killing animals is you're draining their energy, their power, and to use for mystical purposes.
According to newly filed court documents, defense attorneys for Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, have motioned to exclude evidence stemming from his co-defendant's arrest. According to the documents, during Shannon Stillwell's March 2022 arrest, officials found a, quote, religious ceremony which involved the supposed sacrifice of goats. Prosecutors say Stillwell, known as SB, and Young Thug were part of a gang referred to as Young Slime Life, Young Stoner Life, or simply YSL. Last year, Fulton County, Georgia officials indicted nearly 30 people involved in the gang, alleging conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Act, or RICO. Multiple defendants are also indicted on several counts of murder, and Young Thug faces one count of participation in criminal street gang. Jury selection for the 8 gang members began in January in what's set to be the longest criminal trial in the county's history. Now, Young Thug's defense team says showing evidence of this alleged goat sacrifice has no, quote, benefit or probative value and could create prejudice in jurors. For more information about this alleged sacrifice, Long Crime Network spoke to Stephen Hassan, a licensed mental health counselor and founder and director of the Freedom of Mind Resource Center.
There are known paganistic symbols and satanic symbols, and there's a whole textbook on ritual crime that police know.
But in this case, Hassan says he's unclear what specifically a goat sacrifice could represent.
The theory behind killing animals is you're draining their energy, their power, and to use for mystical purposes, or again, as a sign of sacrifice to the divine.
Call hello Yahweh, Bashem El Shai, Bashem Akakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalawam to you of us who are hopeful. Shalawam to the elect. Now, if you've been paying attention to the so-called industry and media and entertainment on a whole, you'll agree with me when I say it's been a tough couple of years for the average so-called Hollywood star. Cancel culture, protests and striking, artists complaining they're being shortchanged out of their just desserts, be it through streaming or the regular record label trickery, i.e. you make the product, let me distribute it, we'll split it 50-50. It goes 1 for you, 1, 2 for me, 1 for you, 1, 2 for me. The Me Too movement and the other side of it, I'm talking about the side which was clearly a witch hunt, even though that has pretty much simmered down. People and children dying at concerts, which ties into this lesson. Lesser luminaries, i.e. celebrities, are even losing fans and being ridiculed for all things, their wealth, which is a given when the truth finally comes out, how they exactly got rich and to what they own their success in the first place. The flip side to that being how they've used their reputation and status to oppress those less fortunate. Again, understandable when the wrong people find out. And of course, we have the many illnesses and even deaths of prominent figures in sports, music, and entertainment on a whole. Even for those who have clearly sold out to the Baphomet. Case in point, the opening clip. Satan is he's coming to collect. The amount of indictments that have been handed down this year citing RICO and a criminal conspiracy is record-breaking. Now, this story in particular here, the one featured in the opening clip, came out a couple of weeks ago, and granted, not the most important thing that's happening globally that's being televised, but as I said, if you've been paying attention, then you'll notice a couple of things that impact we Israelites. One, the violence and death, the canceling and run-ins with the law seem to be happening mostly to us, happening mostly to Jake. And if you've ever doubted the idea that, this is the second thing that stood out in my mind, is if you've ever doubted the idea that ritual sacrifice and the selling of one's soul to become popular and rich wasn't a thing, what more proof do you need? For those who don't know what or who the Baphomet is, let me read you this layman's excerpt. Then I'll read an excerpt from an occult and a Masonic symbolism book for those a little more seasoned. We'll get some scriptures and close out. I don't intend for this one to be too long at all. The excerpt, it reads like this. Baphomet is an invention, a false god whose appearance isn't even documented until fairly recent times. Contemporary depictions of Baphomet include a goat's head on a human body with male and female traits, often sitting cross-legged. It features a symbol on its torso of two snakes intertwined around a sword, a pentagram. A pentagram is simply put a five-pointed star. Upside down, it represents Satan. Right side up, if you will, speaks to Lucifer. On its forehead, and often a larger pentagram behind its head. In fact, the goat face that distinguishes Baphomet from other idols is shaped like a pentagram with two upright horns, two outward stretching ears, and a goatee. According to some reports, this representation of Baphomet originated with French occultist Eliphas Levi, if I'm pronouncing that right, in 1861. And that's pretty much a layman's explanation. For those interested, you can go research Eliphas Levi to get just a better sense of where the Baphomet originated. Now, I do have another excerpt here for the, as I said, for the more seasoned. Goes into it a little bit, but if you really want that in-depth look, then you're going to want to research it on your own. As I said, here's the more seasoned explanation for those who are into the study of the occult. Occult simply means it refers to hidden knowledge that is not readily available to the profane. Profane meaning outside of the temple. Here, for all intent and purposes, it points to those outside of the circle of practitioners involved in this form or sense of worship. Now, the book I pulled this from is Masonic and Occult Symbols Illustrated. You can find it on Amazon if you got the coin. A lot of these books at one time were quote-unquote affordable. But as soon as the elite occultists, those behind the scenes responsible for engineering the social fabric of the West, if you will, realized so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives were doing all this research into finding out who they are as a nation and a people and who their enemy is, they started marking up the prices so the average 9-to-5er couldn't possibly afford to find out the truth. Allegedly. Let me say that. In any event, a quick and revised excerpt reads as such. In the question of Freemasonry, which the author of this quote is actually citing another source, we learn the inverted five-pointed star within a circle is the highest form of satanic expression, representing Baphomet, the god of Mendes, or the embodiment of Lucifer as God. And I'll explain who Lucifer is in a second. In fact, the pentagram enclosed within the circle is a sign for the god and goddess. An occult catalog, again, the author is citing another source here, mentions that Baphomet is the traditional symbol of pagans, witches, Satanists, and mystics. The Dictionary of Mysticism admits Baphomet in occultism, the Sabbatic goat, in whose form Satan was said to be worshipped at the witches' Sabbath. Now, I hope me going into this this excerpt here, by at least by this point, you understand why this goat here was allegedly used in the sacrifice. The occult emporium's catalog sells Baphomet wall plaques. They brag that the plaques are in appropriate colors of each quarter and appropriate Kabbalistic demonic name in the circumference. Officially approved by Reverend Yaj Namolo's Church of Satan. Okay, an earlier catalog stated that one particular Baphomet was worn by the priest of Satan. Describing Baphomet, Nui Unlimited Import says this: Artwork was drawn by Eliphaz Levi, the foremost occult authority of the 19th century. Symbols were included relating directly to ceremonial magic and identified with Baphomet. Much of the same symbols carry forward as on the devil card in the Thoth deck of Crowley, speaking to Aleister Crowley, who said, "Do as thou wilt" shall be the whole of the law in his book, the Book of the Law. The goat of Mendes itself is known as the god of witches, okay? And that's exactly what you're seeing take place with a lot of these stars, so-called stars. They are simple, we know they're minions to the occult, of course, but they are acting as witches and warlocks for the elite. Levi's drawing of Baphomet shows his emphasis on sex, for he made Baphomet as an androgynous, meaning both male and female, figure. Satan, like Baphomet, is often pictured as a hermaphroditic, Salachya, deity having a male phallus and breasts of a woman. The winged staff between Baphomet represents the phallus. Phallus meaning a penis, of course, especially an erect one, which signifies potency, dominance, and I believe fertility. The goat is one of the symbolical animals of Hermetic magic, says Levi, and it is the symbol of generation. In a book on witchcraft, a complete book of witchcraft and demonology, we find a picture of the Baphomet. The caption states that he is the horn god of the witches, symbol of sex incarnate. This picture, by the way, shows Baphomet making the devil's triad with his right hand. Starhawk, a witch, boasts the god of the witches is sexual, but sexuality is seen as sacred, not as obscene or blasphemous. Our god wears horns, but they are waxing and waning crescents of the goddess moon, and a symbol of animal vitality. In some aspects, he is black, not because he is dreadful or fearful, which proves what we're saying about being called black Hebrew Israelites, as it gives a negative connotation. We're not black. Nobody is black. We're different shades of brown. But because darkness and the night are times of power and part of the cycles of time. And all that being said, let's get some scripture. And it was lengthy, and in post I'll actually put it up so you can stop the video if you must, and read at your own leisure. In any event, let's go to Isaiah 14 and 12 so I can explain exactly who Lucifer is. Isaiah 14 and 12, and it reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" Lucifer, here in the Hebrew meaning light bearer. The elite holders of knowledge on the earth is who that is pointing to, not the spiritual demon Satan, okay? The physical counterparts to the spiritual demon Satan, which we know today, speaks to the Illuminati, the so-called secret societies and occult worshippers who really rule the earth. You'll find their symbols all over the world in every business and marketplace and in all facets of industry. It's even printed on their money, okay? Scriptures say the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Job 9 and 24. Well, who rules the world today? Remember, the Bible is a living document, and we know that because there are prophecies written in the Bible that are on the horizon now, but they haven't come to pass yet. We know the wicked to be Esau, Edom, a specific nation of people. Malachi 1 and 14 is the precept there. Who was blessed with the dew of heaven, meaning all the wealth, finances, and resources that his heart desires. He inhabits the best places on the earth, and he rules his kingdom with an iron fist, aka the sword, i.e. his military might. Genesis 27, 39, and 40 on down, all scriptures and the understanding of them that I quoted today, you should know by now if you watch my channel. Esau, Edom is where the stock of the international banking families, the global elite, find their heritage today. In layman's terms, it speaks to the so-called white establishment and so-called white supremacy. So those of you within the circumference of my voice can understand. How art thou fallen from heaven, meaning prominence and rulership, speaking to the times we're in now. The so-called white man is no longer revered by the other nations, nor is he recognized as the go-to authority anymore. Okay? The other nations are pretty much fed up with his brand of slavery and dictatorship, i.e. democracy. And truth be told, they aren't afraid of him anymore because they too have come into possession of the power of the sword, if you will, i.e. what the elders call the great equalizer, the nuclear missile. In Luke 10 and 18, Yahushua says that he witnessed Satan fall from heaven like lightning, speaking to the fall of the so-called white establishment from grace. And that is in reference to the physical counterparts of Satan, again, the so-called white establishment, and them falling out of rulership from all rule, wealth, and prosperity. O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations, meaning having had the other nation under its subjection from its military might, from institutions like the IMF and their international banking system. Now it's the WEF and their implementing of the CBDC, stealing the land of the other nations, enslaving their people, robbing their wealth, and draining them of their natural resources. And through their wicked philosophies, of course, they cause the other nations to commit abominations and all types of atrocities, having them under their spell, introducing them to their brand of witchcraft, again, democracy, capitalism, homosexuality, gay marriage, women's lib, transgenderism, etc., etc. The list goes on. Let's jump down to 14 and 16 because it says this. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, and here's the point, is this the man? Okay, so Lucifer is not the spiritual demon Satan, who does the Heavenly Father's bidding on the left-hand side of his righteousness. In context, Satan simply means adversary, but generally speaking, the Bible teaches he is a son of the Most High Power, Yahweh, and never does he act independent of Yahweh as well. Okay, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Verse 17, that made the world as a wilderness, that turned a so-called civilized existence into savagery on a spiritual level, if you will, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners, which the prison population today is predominantly so-called blacks and Hispanics, we Hebrew Israelites. Again, the amount of Jake that is either on souped up charges, locked up, or awaiting trial right now is at football numbers. And when they convict you, that's exactly what you get, football numbers. The scriptures go on to say, for Esau's insolence, he and his heritage will be cleaned up and removed from the earth, care of the nuclear missiles. Now, ritual sacrifice is nothing new. It speaks to the practice of atrocities. The wicked vibration of Esau has emanated across the earth. The effects of it, you see it in his programming, and now you're even starting to see it in, well, take over his educational system for one, and his school curriculum. He uses these Hollywood celebrities, as I mentioned, so-called musicians, if you can still call them that, and rappers to popularize his witchcraft. It's not the first time I personally heard of musicians drawing on so-called dark forces for energy and selling their souls for fame and riches. And truth be told, it won't be the last. As I said, if you ever doubted that such a thing exists, this story is absolute proof. Let's get this scripture and close out. Maybe I'll come back to this topic depending upon what ends up in my inbox after I upload this lesson. I want to go to a scripture that is often overlooked, that proves the spiritual demon and his physical counterparts are two separate entities, okay? Just like Yahweh and the Father and the Yahweh Shai the Son are one but are two separate identities, the same goes for Satan and his children. Let's go to John 8. John 8 and 44 is one. We'll go there and then I'll get the one that you don't hear too much concerning the other son of God himself. And I'm not talking about Job, the second chapter, but in any event, John 8 and 44 says this, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. This is Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, cursing out the wicked Israelites of that era. We know angels are celestial beings and bodies of pure energy, and so ergo they can't procreate, okay? So this was in reference to mankind. It was the so-called Romans, i.e. the so-called white man, i.e. Edom is in modern Jewry that ruled at that time. He was their father, the murderer, speaking to Cain, and that same spirit reincarnated in Esau, Edom, whom them Israelites going off were doing the bidding for. Murderer, liar, and father of it is the same spirit that these entertainers and rappers serve today. Let's go to Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha 21 and 27, because it says this, when the ungodly curseth Satan, he curseth his own soul, meaning you're cursing your own damn self, because again, Satan doesn't work independently of our Father Yahweh. Everything he does, he is commissioned to do so. So to curse him when you're living against Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, and the law, statutes, and commandments is like heaping coals on your own head. Okay, and just those two alone should prove to you that there are two separate identities working in conjunction, if you will, Esau and Satan alike. Let's get this to close out. Sirach 10 and 9. Let's go there, because it says this: why is earth and ashes proud, meaning prideful, lofty, and arrogant? Traits of Esau Edom, who thinks he has all this power and wealth from his own doing. This really speaks to the 2/3 of Israel who sacrificed their soul by following in his stead. There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. Covetous meaning greedy, eager to have more, really having the strong desire to have what belongs to someone else. This is Esau's kingdom that we're in right now. This is his heaven, yet you have Jake sacrificing the gods that their fathers knew not to share in Esau's blessing of wealth, riches, and want to rule like he does, raping, robbing, and murdering to get ahead. For such an one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels. Literally, men are out here committing unspeakable acts like bending over on the casting couch for success and fame. Selling your soul isn't always about making a literal agreement with Satan to get ahead. Simply put, it means to compromise your morals and integrity, or the lack thereof, to secure the bag. Dressing up like women, promoting these happy philosophies of Esau to children for financial gain is selling your soul, which is wicked as all hell when the body it inhabits doesn't even belong to you. Okay, it's on loan from on high. Let this be a lesson to you so-called aspiring artists. Kanye West said he did the same thing. He sacrificed his soul to the devil and ended up with what is the equivalent to a happy meal. It's not worth it. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Akakodash. To the power and spirit, I hope you were edified. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach us 100% truth and rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Remember, no test, no jab, and damn sure, don't take that CHI to the P. Shalawam, Yasharala. Shalawam to the elect.